I'm excited to be sitting down with New Trier head coach Tom Herrala. People may or may not know that Tom's been coaching at New Trier for over 25 years and has been somebody that I have personally looked up to as a coach and was excited when he accepted my invitation to sit down and talk today. So again, thanks for being here, Tom.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
So Tom, tell us a little bit about kind of your upbringing. I believe you grew up on the East Coast, and tell us how you ended up out in Chicago area.
I grew up in Longmeadow, Massachusetts, which is Western Mass, 90 miles from Boston. Kind of a hotbed at the time in the 70s and 80s. One of the first to have a youth program, so won 8 state championships in the 80s, Massachusetts state championships in the 80s. From there I went to the University of Rochester, played 4 years there, varsity lacrosse, was a captain my senior year, and then chased my college girlfriend out to Chicago.
And when you came out here, you immediately get involved in coaching?
I did not. So I got a job on the floor as a runner, is how you start. And to supplement my income, I started reffing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I reffed for 2 years. And my girlfriend lived in Winnetka, actually went to New Trier, which is a coincidence. And there was a men's league up there run by Rich Martin, which most people probably know, old people. And I started playing in that men's league, met up with a bunch of guys that played club lacrosse. I hooked up with Lakeshore Lacrosse Club at the time, and we're playing with them. And the head coach, Mark Machika at New Trier, was on that team, and we were talking, and he had seen me reffing, and I was reffing 5-6 games a week. And he's like, "What are you doing this spring? Reffing again?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Need a coach." And I'm like, "You want to coach?" I'm like, "Absolutely. I'd much rather coach than ref." So that's how it started.
Wow. Yeah, I know I have reffed games before. I prefer to coach as opposed to ref.
Yes. Get yelled at versus yell at. Yeah, that was 1996.
Okay. And so yeah, I mean, 25 years coaching, does it feel like it's gone by fast, or have there been times where it's like, man, holy cow, I can look back and think it has been a long time?
Yeah, I had no intention of coaching this long. I love it, obviously. It's great. It helps to be in a program that's elevated, so you're doing a lot of high-level coaching, which is awesome. I just did it, and then especially early on, it was do you want to coach again this year? And I was like, yeah, for sure. Mark coached for a year, and then Greg Gabel came in. I had no interest in being a head coach at the time. I was worried about my regular job. And he came in in 97, so he was there until 2004. Again, I was a defensive guy. We only had 2 coaches back then. I enjoyed him, still a friend of mine. We still keep in contact. And then John Combs came in for 4 years. And then after Combs, I took over in 2009.
That's awesome. And so you were part of 13 state championships.
12.
12.
There is 13. 95. New Trier won one in 95. I was not there.
Okay. And I mean, that's a pretty impressive resume, being there for 25 years, 12 state championships. You have kind of created this culture of a Midwest powerhouse. Is there pressure because of that, where you start the year and it's like, okay, I guess people expect us to win every year? Any thoughts on that? Is that internal pressure? Do you feel like there's outside pressure? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, that's always the expectation and the goal. I try to tame it a little bit early, especially when the parents are talking about dates and like the state championship game is this day, and it's like, whoa, we're not in the state championship game yet.
Yeah.
If we get to the state championship, I'm a little superstitious too, so I don't like to just assume things. So yeah, I mean, it builds on itself. The kids clearly expect it. We've won, I've won 12, and we've been to the finals, I mean, every year since I posted a tweet that 2020 was the first time only the second time since 2005 that we haven't been in the finals.
Yeah. Wow.
So we've made it to the finals, and the dynamic has changed in the last 2 years with the IHSA, and First year, Loyal and I met in the finals, and Loyal and us. The second year, we played in the sectionals.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming we're going to be in the sectionals probably going forward. So it's definitely going to be harder to make the state championship game because somebody's going to lose on that Friday before
right.
final week.
Yeah, obviously that was when it was adapted by IHSA. Obviously that was a new part of it where historically the two top schools play each other because they're more locally versus some of the other schools. And
right,
so
we
forth.
seeded one through however many teams there was before, and then the IHSA does it by sections.
Right. So over the years, you've coached numerous All-Americans. I think the list was like over 23. Some guys getting it multiple times in years. Right. Looking back on any historical alumni, guys that stick out that you just really enjoyed coaching, you've talked to the younger guys about leadership, any thoughts on that?
The first one that sticks out is Matt Kelly, who, a little known fact about Matt people don't know is he played baseball as a freshman.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. He played baseball as a freshman, picked up lacrosse as a sophomore, played 3 years of obviously varsity lacrosse, and then went to Virginia, started at Virginia. At the time, the most started games by any freshman. This was when they started playing those early games. And then they made it to the national championship.
Wow.
National championship. So he played freshman baseball in high school and then started more games than any freshman in the history of NCAA at the time.
Wow.
So, incredible athlete. Obviously. Still keep in touch with Matt. He's a good friend. Ben Connolly played it true. Awesome. He struggled in high school with some injuries, but when he was healthy, he was one of the best I've ever coached.
Yeah.
He was a 3-time All-American in college. Mick Parks was unbelievable. He was a face-off guy, went to Virginia and faced off, left with, I think, 7th all-time in ground balls. But in high school lacrosse, he was an unbelievable offensive guy too.
Right.
He played attack for us sometimes. He would face off and then go down to attack, or
Yeah, he was a guy. I remember it. Just a guy. He had to be on the field. He was going to do something.
Couldn't take him off the field.
Yes.
He was just so athletic, so fast, so quick. Got ground balls all over the place, not just on face-offs.
Yeah.
And on that team there was Chad Sawyer, who's the all-time leading scorer at New Trier, who he scored 50 goals as a freshman for us.
Wow.
Yeah, which is pretty incredible. Then he ran into some knee issues also, but he went on. He was an All-American in college. Those are some of the guys that stick out. I mean, there's a bunch. I mean, Matt Solberg scored a game winner in 2014 in overtime against Loyola. We were down by 2. Scored the last 2 goals in the last 53 seconds, and then Matt Solberg scored to win it.
Yeah, I was talking to one of your assistant coaches, and they mentioned that you have vivid memories of the championship games, and you can kind of pull up like history. And I was going to ask, is there any game that sticks out? And it sounds like...
2004, 2010, Chris Schweitzer scored on a feed from Mick Parks with 1 minute and 6 seconds left against Loyola. We won that game 7-6. He then won the ensuing face-off and came down and shot right at the goalie. So angry. We had 1 minute to kill, and he comes down and shoots. We had to play defense, but we pulled through. But some of the older ones blend together a little bit, but moments like that for sure are memorable.
Something that was mentioned to me, I asked, again, like I said, I talked to one of your assistant coaches. I said, there's got to be some cool history, and kind of ritual, tradition, something about Buffalo runs.
Buffalo. So that was started by Abear, who was he was back. His territory now is like the Midwest. He lives in New Hampshire. So he came back to practice last year. He was there the last night of before COVID broke out. We were at the bar up there having some cocktails with some alumni, and he stopped by and gave a rendition of where Buffalo's. I had never really known where they came from, but in honor of him, I've kept doing Buffalo's. Basically, it's down and back, the width of a field. We do it in about 42 seconds. Obviously, as practice goes along, it's harder to do in 42. But it's basically his coach, high school coach, and football high school coach would run it. And as the kids came to the sidelines and stopped to turn around, sounds like a herd of buffaloes. This is back before turf and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So they call it a buffalo.
So, from my understanding, you guys have done the Buffalo Run after winning the state championships.
We do, yes. And that was started by Combs, actually. John Combs, who was a head coach for 4 years. We won a state championship, and we used to practice over at Duke Child, which now we're on campus because we have turf fields. We would have the bus stop at Duke. We'd all get out, coaches included.
On the way home from the championship.
On the way home on our way back to campus, and we would run a buffalo.
And from my understanding, you actually kicked a youth soccer game off, or
we didn't kick them off. I just went up. There was youth soccer practicing one year, and I just went up and said, "Hi, how are you? I'm Coach Herrala, head varsity. We just won a state championship. We're going to be here for a minute and a half tops. We have this tradition. We're just going to." He was totally like, "Everybody off the field." He was totally cool with it. So. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. It was a good story. And then, so many people, especially from the western suburbs, south suburbs, they look at New Trier as being kind of high society. Just recently, from my understanding, you guys, before you had turf, there were times where you guys were practicing on the pavement or doing stick work inside the gym and all that kind of stuff versus having all these. I know everywhere facilities are getting better at all schools, but from my understanding, you guys, it wasn't always like that. You guys were all about hard work and getting it done. So,
yeah, we didn't have turf. We weren't allowed to play in the stadium because it was, manicured grass or whatever. Won awards, and goalie crease beats it up. So we had our, when you coached, you played with us over at our East Campus.
Yeah.
But we would not, because of the weather in the Midwest, we wouldn't be outside till after spring break, which was usually the first week of April. So yeah, we would, if it was warm out or warm enough and there was no snow, we would go to the parking lot and practice in the parking lot just for space.
Yeah.
To get out of a gym.
Yeah, I remember doing that when I was growing up in high school. I never played on turf until I went to college. And I just, being on the pavement, miss a pass, the second bounce, the ball is gone.
Goes forever. And usually there's snowbanks, so they do stop it a little bit because it's plowed. But yeah, that second bounce is a doozy for sure.
One of the big things, the influence of the youth coming up to New Trier. Any people, any organizations that you're kind of it really helps having these guys coach these kids at a young age and kind of developing them so that once they get to you're maybe able to have higher expectations for the players and stuff like that. Maybe youth coaches, you really appreciate what they do for you.
Yeah, Chip Kenyon from Kenilworth is obviously the one that sticks out. He's been awesome. Even before there was club teams, he worked a deal where the kids were allowed to go out during their free periods, in fifth grade, and they could play wall ball. I don't know that they're allowed to do that anymore because of liability issues, but kids were playing wall ball during gym and just had a stick in their hands, and he made sure that they were working on it, and he would, obviously coach them in the spring and stuff in the summer. But yeah, Chip has been, awesome. Yeah,
I'd like to take a look at the alumni list and find out how many of those kids actually went to Sears School or played.
There's a good, Tyler Seminette is at North Carolina, Ben Connolly.
Yep.
A bunch of the goalies for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So I'd love to hear about your relationship with Rob Schneider. Obviously, when we talk about one of the biggest rivalries of kind of lacrosse in the state, obviously it's going to be New Trier versus Loyola.
Yeah.
And obviously the players have some hostility against each other out on the field. What's your relationship with Rob?
I like Rob. We get along. We're not going out to dinner or anything, but at coaches meetings back when we had them, especially when it was the IHS LA, we sat together. We communicate, and sometimes during the season, but during the off season for sure. If some rumor or some gossip comes up, did you hear this? We'll text back and forth.
Yeah.
If I did see him at a restaurant, I would say hi to him or have a beer with him. But we just but yeah, we definitely get along.
What's the vibe at practice leading up to a Loyola week?
It depends on when the game is. You know, if we're playing them on a Thursday and we had a game on Tuesday, it's only really one day. You know.
Yeah.
But you know, we try not to focus too hard on the first matchup in, you know, regular season. We try to keep it straight-laced during the regular season to, you know, play our game, see how we do, and then obviously make adjustments in the playoffs if we need to. Getting ready for them for a state championship game is pretty unique because there's nobody on campus at practice, right? It's quiet. You have the whole field to yourself generally. You know, maybe the girls are in the state championship game or the girls soccer, but other than that, there's nobody around. So it's pretty cool. The seniors are not in school, so they're, you know, rolling out.
You kind of feel like a pro team almost. Like
yeah, it's really cool. You know, you have your own trainer. She's there at practice. She or there at practice. Yeah, and it's just, you know, it's just you're all by yourself. You're able to do what you need to do. You're focused on just lacrosse. There's no conditioning or anything like that because coming down to your last game.
That's awesome. I also heard, I didn't know this, but there's a tradition of walking to the game, or Loyola walks to you guys, or you walk to them.
Yeah.
What is there some history to that?
So that started with Loyola. So sometimes when we would play a big game, we were allowed to play in the stadium. Mm-hmm. So Loyola was, you know, obviously a big game. Some out-of-state teams we played in the stadium, and then in the playoffs we would play in the stadium. So they would walk over. You know, we always played them up on the hill. Yeah. So you couldn't walk over.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And then the last 5 or 7 years, we started playing them in their stadium. You know, more for crowd control, just because the hill doesn't have
stands.
It's like a couple. Sometimes there's 2,000-3,000 people there.
Yeah.
So it's like 10 deep. So they did it over there. So now we walk over, and it's a cool experience. It's, the kids are hyped up, so they walk fast. I'm getting old. But yeah, we go over there. We'll bring the ball buckets over or something. One of the assistant coaches will drive the ball, so the kids, nobody has to carry a ball bucket. But that's a cool experience. We walk over. The last time we did in 2019, we played at their place for the sectional championship. There was a ton of parents and fans as we walked in, so everybody was cheering and had their cowbells and whatever. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I had no idea that was going on. That you guys did the walk. Yeah,
and then the walk back if you win is obviously awesome.
Yes.
Not as much fun if you lose.
So thoughts on the state of lacrosse in Illinois? Obviously, you guys, those two schools have always been traditionally some of the powerhouse schools. Lake Forest has always been in that category. You feel like it's growing in a positive way. Schools that are kind of popping up. I know we were talking about a few schools earlier that are kind of on the rise. Any thoughts there? Maybe respect for the coaches or the programs they've got going on right now?
Yeah, I mean, from 96 to now, obviously it's changed dramatically. But even in the last 10 years with the development and the emergence of club teams, kids are playing year-round, which is more common in the East Coast and other hotbeds. So, lacrosse has gotten a lot better. But it's still kind of the have and have-nots. Some teams kids don't play. They don't have youth in their town, or the kids aren't playing club because it's not. So you're seeing a lot of blowouts now, but you're seeing blowouts from non-traditional teams that didn't always blow people out. So it's good to see. I mean, all the Naperville schools are getting better. York is obviously good, and then now with the emergence of all the Catholic League schools, Viator started it recruiting, and now you got Rita, and then everybody's playing better, so it's great.
Absolutely. What do you think about your kind of implementing a winning culture? Okay, so a couple years ago, I asked you if I can come by practice just to watch, and I think I had to be on the other side of a fence at one point. You kind of let me in, but I remember you were like, hey, you gotta watch out. You can't be on the field talking to the kids as much. But one thing that stuck out to me is like the players were dressed before practice, out on the field practicing. Then it was like one whistle, boom, they started doing getting the drills going, getting their stick work going. I've gone to other high school practices where the coach is screaming at kids to just get their equipment on at like 4 o'clock to start the practice. What do you feel like has been a recipe to kind of creating that culture of like, hey, let's work hard, let's get it done? Are there people that kind of showed you a positive path? Are there coaches out there in college or pros that you kind of follow, that you get some insight from? I just would love to hear kind of your approach to a season and so forth.
Yeah, so some of the things, like we do part whole, like Coach Monsieur did at West Jenny. Shoney's an upstate guy, went to college in upstate. So we do that, and then practice starts at 4. We're dressed and ready at 3:45. I mean, obviously, if you have a tutor or you're meeting with your teacher after school, it's okay to be a little late. But generally, and that's, I'm coming from downtown, so sometimes I'm not there till 4-ish. And that's, so we've set a good example, and it's gone from year to year that the captains are the ones that are really instituting getting everybody ready. Captains and other seniors. And they set the tone, and that tone then is carried over from year to year. So that really helps. Those guys, being great leaders, and we've had a bunch of good leaders over the years. So that really, really helps. They set the tone. The same thing with practice. If there are times when we're not running hard enough, and we might have to go on the sideline and run
a couple buffaloes.
So it's like a catch-22. We just ran a buffalo, now we're more tired, but you can see that the effort is better, and that's really what you want to see.
Yeah. Any like words of wisdom to young coaches, guys that are just becoming head coaches, youth coaches that can learn a couple pointers from you? The best thing to do, but it's kind of hard, is to get these guys to be going 100% in practice, because they're going to go 100% in games. So I just had a coach reach out to me, like I thought we didn't do a great job on ground balls, but he texted me the next day, like, how much time do you spend on ground balls? And it's like, the key is getting these guys to, when you're doing ground ball drills, don't just go through the motions. You got to get these guys to sprint. We do a drill where we have a stagger guy. The guy's picking up the ground ball. He's got a chaser. And he's not chasing to put pressure on in terms of like throwing a check or anything. He's chasing to put pressure on mentally, because he's got a guy right on his tail. He has to pick that ground up. He has to be running full speed. And then that translates to the, to a game when you're running full speed. If you're not practicing at full speed, then it's hard to just turn it on in a game. So. Right. I know, your current coaching staff. It sounds like you have a lot of trust in those guys. Any kind of thoughts or feedback, or I believe Coach Dixon does defense, Shoney does offense. Yeah. It seems like you take like the Belichick approach and coaching them up, then making sure that they do it. I don't know, any thoughts on that? Kind of respect for those guys? Yeah,
well, Shoney's been around since he was at GBS before New Trier. He's been around since 2002 or 3. And obviously a great coach, one of my best friends. So we have a relationship outside of the coaching world. We keep in touch over the summer and all off season. So he's great on the offense. Coach Dixon's been around for 4 years now, 5 years. Before him, we had Matt Kelly for 3 years. So we've definitely had some guys that have been able to step in. Coach Dixon played at he won a national championship at Salisbury and then played at Tampa. He really does a great job, scouting the other teams and bringing things to the table that we always did, but he just takes some of the workload off of me, so that helps a ton.
Yeah.
We got Paul Newman, who is a GBS grad. He's a teacher at New Trier, who works with the goalies and works with the offense. So it's a good group. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been blessed with great coaches over the years and to have played under some good coaches.
Yeah. Well, I have a question. What are your thoughts on when a kid from Illinois is interested to go to like a private school? Okay, this is kind of prep school. Yeah, this is like a very hot topic that's talked about right now. I'm sure I know you've kind of dealt with that maybe at New Trier, where you're kind of like, what, what's going on here? Why are you doing that? Kids from other non-traditional schools that are going that way. I don't know. I'd love to hear your kind of perspective on that.
I don't know if you know, I did a PG here. So
I did one too. So yeah,
we're both. You're from Mass, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I get it. We don't see kids leaving New Trier to go to prep school and repeat a year generally for lacrosse. Mm-hmm. They're doing it. They play lacrosse, but they're doing it for hockey.
Yeah.
At some point they outgrow Illinois hockey. And they're being told that, if you want to play D1 hockey or if you want to get a chance of being drafted, you need to go to this prep school, one of these prep schools. And prep school hockey is some of the best hockey in the country. It's funny because we just had a recent one who was chasing a hockey dream, and I kept telling his dad, he's a D1 lacrosse player, and he went to repeated his junior year. He played for us as a sophomore and freshman and junior. Chased the hockey dream, and then ended up playing college lacrosse at a Division I school in the Ivy Leagues.
Yeah.
But so it's. I mean, I do get it. I mean, New Trier academically is one of the best schools in the country.
Yeah.
So it's not a huge step up. In terms of kind of what's going on with Culver a little bit, I think that it hurts Illinois lacrosse to see some of the best players leave Illinois and whatever high school they were playing for and go to Culver. And I get the reason, because you're going to Culver and you're playing high-level teams and you're playing high-level lacrosse and you're playing with all the Canadians. And so I get it. I mean, I totally get it. When it's a parent's decision and it's best for their kid, it's not best for Illinois lacrosse.
Right. Yeah. And then, how does it work? Because obviously, I talked about your relationship with Loyola. You have sometimes kids that would be going to New Trier that end up going to Loyola.
There's 10 to 15 kids on their roster that are in the New Trier school district every year.
Yeah.
Some of them just recently were Hackett and Prosnick. Both went Division I lacrosse. I mean, on a year that we won a state championship, if we had those guys, it would be we would have been pretty strong. I mean, even stronger. But that's it is what it is. Kids come out of the womb with Loyola stuff on, right?
Right. Yeah.
Their dad went to Loyola, their grandfather went to Loyola, and they're going to Loyola.
Right.
And there's some that come, in that area, they're going to New Trier. Their parents went to New Trier, and they're not going to go to Loyola.
Right.
And then some are wishy-washy, and they make the decision, in 8th grade. So.
Right. Well, Coach, I really appreciate you sitting down and talking and just talking lacrosse. I loved hearing the stories about, the Buffalo runs and some of those.
You did your homework.
Like I said, you've been somebody that I have looked up to as a coach just in Illinois, and I know that's why I wanted to come out and just kind of see how you kind of run things. I was extremely impressed with, like you mentioned, how the captains are right on par with getting things started, assistant coaches taking lead. I saw you guys play recently in a game, and it was all business. And so I know, regardless of the opponent that you guys play against, you guys approach with a goal in mind in terms of winning, going to the next game, and like you said, trying to win another state championship.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a business attitude, which is great. It's been that way, and it was established, with me, but with other head coaches, and we can continue to do it, and the players do it because they were there as a sophomore or junior and they saw it, and from the guys that were older than them, and then again, my coaching staff has always been great.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time today, and good luck the rest of the season, Coach.
Thanks, Mike.